Pittsburgh Ballet Theatre School provides ballet education and training of the highest caliber that prepares students for professional careers in dance. The pre-professional division at PBT School provides a wide array of performance opportunities while focusing on the dancer as a whole person, nurturing them into creative and well-rounded professionals. The school welcomes dancers of all backgrounds, levels, and interests, and includes the opportunity for international student visas. Auditions for Pittsburgh Ballet Theater's pre-professional program will be held March 6th through the 11th. Pre-professional dancers will have the opportunity to work with incoming PBT director Adam McKinney starting this summer. For more information, visit pbt.org/pbts/auditions2023.
Welcome to Conversations on Dance. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the podcast through your favorite app to be automatically notified of new episodes when they go live. While you are there, please take a moment to leave us a review. Leaving a review takes just a second and goes a long way in helping us grow the podcast and supports us in this endeavor. We appreciate you joining us today. Now, let's get to the episode. I'm Rebecca King-Ferraro.
And I'm Michael Sean Breeden, and you're listening to Conversations on Dance. On today's episode of Conversations on Dance, we are joined by Dance Theater of Harlem ballerina Amanda Smith. Amanda tells us about how her early extracurricular activities led to greater versatility, how her education at SUNY Purchase shaped her career, and the importance of persistence in achieving one's goals. Visit dancetheaterofharlem.org to see the company's tour dates to catch Amanda on stage this season at a theater near you. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're so excited to have you on and for giving us your free time. It's your free day. So we really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And we always start with everyone just hearing a little bit about how you first became interested in ballet and dance generally.
Yeah, so thank you again for having me. I'm so excited to be here. This is such a great podcast. I think that everyone should listen. It's wonderful to be able to talk about these things in dance. But yes, so I started dance when I was like 3. Like I feel like a lot of people. I, as my mom and dad would say, I was a nonstop mover as a child. Like I was in the grocery stores putting on shows. I was in the doctor's office. I was always moving. And so not only did they put me in ballet, they had me in tennis. They had me in piano. They had me in swimming. I love to swim. Oh my gosh. Swimming was like another great love of mine. But there was something about dance and ballet in particular that made me feel something in my blood. I don't know. It changed how I was like as a person. So I would say I got really passionate when I met this teacher of mine. She came to the studio at Brea Dance Center back because I'm from California. And this studio in Brea, and she came and taught a class. And I remember being like, whoa, she's super intense. Like she's she's the real deal. And she also she came from DTH, or she was, she never actually danced in the company, but I believe she danced in the school for a bit, or she was about to dance in the school. And she kind of took me under her wing, and I don't know, she brought the passion out of me. I already had it within me, but you always need that one person that's just going to help you get to where you need to go, and bring that light out of you. So she was that person. Her name was Cheris Moses. And she's incredible. And so she kind of helped bring that out of me. And then I just took it from there.
I'm curious hearing you talk about these other things you were doing, tennis and swimming and piano. Did you immediately, once you started dance, kind of start to hone in on that and focus on that? Or were you doing these other things at the same time for a long time? I'm just curious, how that all kind of worked together and maybe influenced your dancing.
Yeah. It's crazy because I feel like I loved them all, not all the same, but I got something out of each and every thing that I did. And my dad always thought that I was very athletic too. So he even taught me how to play baseball in the backyard. I did, and I tell you, I did everything. Yeah. And I feel I don't know, because I was able to just kind of transition to different things all the time, it eventually, I feel like, transitioned into my dance career and how I'm able to be versatile and how I'm able to go from one thing to the next, from contemporary to classical to neoclassical. Like, I feel like I'm able to do that. And I also was in on the dance team in high school. So yeah, so I got the hip hop and the jazz and I did it all.
Wow.
Oh my God. They were really trying to tire you out. I can tell. Your parents.
Yes. Yes, they were.
So once that spark was kind of lit within you by this teacher, what were the next steps for your training or your career path? What did you see for yourself?
Yeah, so that was like, I think it was middle school. Going into high school, I started dancing for this ballet, the studio, Anaheim Ballet. And yeah, and I really started, I feel like that's when like ballet became my main focus, with my teachers, Larry and Sarma Rosenberg. And then I also had the dance team, which was, I kind of had the best of both worlds. I had like the jazz in the morning and the fun, and then I had ballet at night, like, and then in between was homework.
Somewhere.
There was homework. Somewhere in there was homework and all the other stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like I had both the ballet and the other stuff too, which kind of, again, helped me now to this day with being versatile and being able to change from one thing to the next.
Yeah. And where did you go from high school? Like, what was the next step? When did you decide I really need to like up my training and look at this in a different way, get a different experience?
Yeah, so after high school, I went to college. I studied at SUNY Purchase. My parents are very like analytical, logical people. They are computer analysts and an accountant. So they're like, you're going to college. Like, what is this? Going straight to a company? No, you're going to get your education, which I am, now when I teach at other places and teach master classes, I'm always like an advocate for going to college, because I feel like it helps you grow before you're in a company. Because when you're in a company, it's just it's a professional world and you're around adults, and it's just a different, experience. So I think it's important to have those like 4 years under your belt of being on your own and experiencing life by yourself and figuring it out. At SUNY Purchase, I think it was good because they helped us to think differently and think wide open. That was the motto at Purchase. Yeah. And so I feel like they helped set me up for the professional world. And then after SUNY Purchase, I went to, I danced with Charlotte Ballet. I got a job with Charlotte Ballet.
I want to hear a little bit about your experience at SUNY, like what your day-to-day was like. How did you balance maintaining and advancing your technique and skill set while also doing, like, I'm sure, many academic courses?
Yeah, so I would start the day. I think my first class was at like 8 a.m. I know on Wednesdays, for a fact, we started with point at 8 a.m. And that was really, that was something. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And then I had like a few, like journalism, like communications classes, writing classes. There was like required classes that you had to take, especially for freshman and sophomore year. And then I believe I still continued with Spanish, learning a language, also keeping that, because I also was learning Spanish in high school. So I'm glad that I continued to do that. And then I was able to study abroad in Spain, which was so cool, through SUNY Purchase. Yeah.
Did you dance while you were there too? Like, how did that come into the fold there?
Yeah. So it was a part of this international like dance festival in Madrid. Yeah. And SUNY was able to take a few of us, that wanted to go and be a part of that program. And we did 4Ts over there. We did a Nacho Dorado piece, and I got to do that at like 19 years old, which was really awesome. Yeah. And Originally, I wanted to also major in journalism, so I wanted to double major.
Hmm.
But dance was so time consuming. I like because we would have almost like company schedule on top of the our regular classes, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So it would be like writing and all this other stuff, education in the morning, and then like dance all night long. It
Wow.
was purchased like this, I believe it was the Purchase Dance Company or whatever. And then we would have like Nutcracker and spring shows and fall shows, kind of just like a regular like season.
Wow. And so
Right.
when you got to a company where you're like, wow, this is super easy comparatively.
Yes and no. Like I was like, okay, this is familiar.
Mhm.
Definitely like I would say it was less work. I wasn't like writing papers at 3 a.m., once I got into a
Right.
company. But um yeah, and I think it was also great because by your senior year you had to choreograph, and then you had to get your own, like you had to find your own choreographer to create something on you. I chose Helen Pickett to create a solo on me for my senior project, which was amazing. It was like my first time working with her, and she's just
Mhm.
awesome, super intense, but also like really brings out the best in you.
Mhm.
So I had her as my senior project choreographer for my solo, and then I created a piece.
Mm.
And my piece actually was a mixture of Broadway and ballet. I kind of just tried to bring all of my favorite things into one
Oh.
piece. And yeah, that was
Right.
my senior project. Yeah.
So I actually this brings to mind my next question, which is, did you always know that you wanted to be in a ballet company? You had this other background. You could have taken a different, still dance oriented, but a different path. Were you pretty dead set on still being in a ballet company?
Yeah, definitely still wanted to do ballet. Like that just
Mhm.
always came first for me. Like I could do all the other things, but like there was something about being in tights and point shoes and a tutu that would always just like, I don't know, just make my heart
Yeah.
feel something different than everything else. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was always ballet.
I wonder, you maybe already touched on this. So if you feel like you've already answered this for me, but I think it's really important just to kind of go back to talk about the way that so many people might see going to college as a waste of 4 years of your youth when you could be in a company. And so I wonder, since you are such an advocate for going to school before joining a company, what would you say to those people specifically about that and those 4 years of maybe like being lost?
Yeah, I think it's also surrounding yourself with the right people once you're out when you're in school.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes time because that took me a while as well. Like my first year, I experienced different kind of things, and then eventually you kind of find the people that are gonna be there for you and are also going kind of through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
At Purchase, the blessing with Purchase is there's so many people from all across the country and all over the world. So you're not just getting New Yorkers that have, lived there. It's like people from that are also from California or from Texas or from, wherever. So you're all coming together and you're trying to figure it out. So definitely like just surrounding yourself with the right people. Um, and talking to your family as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really important thing. I think talking to my mom and my dad on a mostly regular basis when I was in school
Yeah.
helped kind of keep my head in line and doing the right thing. But yeah, it definitely takes time. Like there was like my freshman year, I remember I was staying up late for no reason. Like I
Mm-hmm.
would stay up until 3 a.m. just because I was like, I don't have my parents
I
around.
could. Yeah.
Yeah, I can. And then you realize, oh, I have class at 8 a.m. Why did I? Eventually you're like, oh, so, you learn things about yourself and you're like, wow.
Yeah. And it's true. And you're surrounded with people who are going through the same things as opposed to being in a company where there are people who've been dancing in the company for 20 years and, like have it all figured out already. So I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, what made you interested in taking a job with Charlotte Ballet? Did you have other companies you were looking at, or what drew you to Charlotte specifically?
Yeah, so I had other companies. I auditioned everywhere, and I including Dance Theater of Harlem at the time.
Mm.
That was like my first time auditioning, and I remember I made it to the end of the audition with DTH, and then like after that, like they were going in another direction. So I remember being really
Mhm.
crushed at the time. But North Carolina Dance Theater at the time. Um,
Right, right, right.
yeah, was with John Pierre and Patty McBride. And they took me in, and I remember going down there like, North Carolina, like what do I do? Like what's around here? Like, I'd never been. But I fell in love with the company because not only did we do like Balanchine works, we did really awesome contemporary works. And like it was just wonderful. I started with the second company, and then I was promoted after a year, I believe. Yeah, after a year, and then was in the first company. But yeah, there was something about North Carolina Dance Theater. They did it all. Like it was a company that just does it all, and like includes
Mhm.
everything in an equal. I feel like it's equally um, the same, like the neoclassical and the classical and the contemporary. It's all like
Right.
a good amount. And I got to work with Dwight Roden and a bunch of other people, and it was really awesome. And as that being my first job too, like to have all that experience and to work with Patty McBride, like, oh my
Mhm.
goodness,
Mhm.
icon, legend, like just incredible. She is amazing. And doing like, I remember she was coaching us on Western Symphony, and we were doing the third movement that not a lot of people do anymore,
Yeah.
in the
We
Western
did that at
Symphony.
Miami City Ballet too. It's such a great little ditty.
We
I
love
love
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard, but I feel like I remember after, like none of us could stand.
No.
Like after you go off, you're like, oh my gosh, like your legs, 'cause it's so much jumping.
Right.
Um,
Hard.
but that was one of my favorite moments, and like Patty just like coaching us on how to just like have fun also on stage. Like
Mhm.
she was just like ham it up. She always was like, "You're such a ham, just be a ham." And like I was like, "Okay, I can do that."
Oh.
But yeah, being able to have that experience at Charlotte Ballet was really, really, really something. So
Mhm.
yeah, I really enjoyed my time there.
Yeah.
Mhm. At what point did you feel like you wanted to head back to New York City, or what did that next career path look like for you?
Um, so there was a moment, I feel like, and this happens in a lot of people's career, where I just felt like I wasn't being pushed enough. Um, and I needed something more, I felt like I wanted to be at a certain level in my life, and I feel like it wasn't getting there in that moment. So I was like, I'm gonna go back to New York City and I'm gonna freelance. And that's what I did. And that was pretty crazy. Freelancing in New York City is just all hustle and bustle. But that's when I like kept auditioning for DTH too. I think I auditioned for DTH like 4 times before I finally joined the company. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was always like, it was a timing thing, it's just
Yeah.
like,
Hmm.
there were some times where it was like I was too short or I was too tall or I was just, and finally by 20, was it 27? Yeah, 2017 is when I joined. But a few months before that, I remember my brother was graduating from college in Hawaii, and I was in Hawaii, and I remember Virginia Johnson sending me an email. Hey, are you in town? I would love for you to come audition. I'd love for you to do some rep. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I'm not in town, but I will be in town. And so I went back to New York. And so, Hawaii is like 6 hours behind New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then New York is like 6 hours. So I did rep, and I told her, I was like, Virginia, I'm so sorry. I'm like super jet lagged. And she was like, no worries. Like, I just wanted to see you in some of our rep. And then after that,
Mhm.
she hired me. So, it's just always,
Wow.
it's God's timing. I remember like my
Mhm.
dad was like, don't worry, like it's coming. Just be patient, and it's all about
Oh,
patience, and life will work itself out. So
yeah.
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 What was Virginia kind of communicating with you during that time when you were trying to audition? My guess is she wasn't like, no, go away, it'll never happen. Like she clearly kind of must have had a little bit of a dialogue with you to make you feel like I need to keep pushing for this.
Yeah, she definitely like it was never discouraging, It was always like not right now kind of thing. Like we, like I said, like there were some times where like I was too small, like I was too short, and they were looking for somebody taller to fill a taller spot. And so things like that, it was just like, okay, well, that's fine. I'll continue and keep working and doing other things, doing other gigs. But she never made me feel discouraged, which I really appreciated.
Right.
She always was like, keep coming back, come take class, like be around,
Aww.
be in the studio.
Right.
So that's what I did. I would come take class sometimes. And then I became friends with a lot of the company members, and I started doing gigs with like Devon and Stephanie and people in the company. So it was, it was definitely meant to be. But in my, when you're in that moment of like that rejection, even if it's not discouraging, you're still like, okay, yeah, sure.
Right.
Okay. Keep coming back. You just have to keep going.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What was that? How long were you freelancing before you got your job at DTH?
About a year. Yeah, a full year. I think like the year of 2016, going into 2017. Because I had left North Carolina then. Yeah.
How do you look back on that year? I know freelancing can be so hard, and now that you know that you've only had to do it that year. What are your feelings on what that life was like?
Oh my goodness. Every day I had to plan my life. I feel like I'm like, okay, wake up at this time, go to the gym. Okay, email these 5, 17, 18 billion people. Teach. I was teaching in like 3 different like places. I was teaching in Connecticut, and I was teaching in Long Island, and then I was teaching in the Bronx in like within one day, like going from one place to the next or two between. Yeah, it was that
Right.
life, like, because you have to make, I mean, you're in the city, you got to pay rent. So it's like,
Right.
I have to teach and I have to make money somehow. And then I danced with New York Theater Ballet for a bit, for like a few months. And that was pretty cool. I definitely, it was very different for me because their technique is Cicchetti. It's the Cicchetti technique. So that was very foreign to me. I was like, but it was great because it was a learning experience. And I always feel like it's good to get yourself involved in other techniques. So you just know, and you can teach and inspire the next generation and have that, knowledge under your belt. But yeah, I definitely did that. And it was a blessing that I did New York Theater Ballet, because through New York Theater Ballet, I did a gig with Gap Fit. And so then in 2016, I was in a Gap Fit ad, like commercial. Yeah, with other dancers, like from all over the country. So it was wild. It was really wild. Freelancing really taught me how to hustle.
So then you get your dream job, you're in DTH. What's that first year in the company like for you?
Oh my goodness. Just nonstop joy. I don't know. I was so excited, but also like nervous at the same time. I feel like just like anybody in a company, like especially your first year, you're like, I want to keep this job. So you're like super nervous every day in the studio. You want to do everything perfectly and you want to do everything right. But it was also a big transition too, because we tour so much.
Right.
We travel a lot. So traveling all the time. And my first year, we literally went to Poland and Lithuania and Hungary. And so, I mean, and I do love to travel, but like to travel and dance also, it just, and being in different like hotel rooms every other week and different theaters, that part was definitely a big adjustment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I wonder, what has made you feel like, so you had your eye on DTH for so long, you finally are there. What has made you feel like, oh, this is home for me? Like, this is where I belong. This is the company for me.
Um, I think it's the fact that it goes back to like my roots almost being versatile, like being like we do everything
Mm-hmm.
and we do it like I don't know, as a choreographer comes in and they ask us to do something and we're like, yeah, okay, I'll flip and do a somersault and then land on point. Totally. Like and then do fouettes from there. Like, yeah, I feel like, yeah, again, it goes back to that and like being able to do everything. So the fact that this company, like, not only do we do everything in one like show and in one performance, will go from Allegro to Blake Works, Forsyth to an Annabelle Lopez Ochoa piece. You know, it's like we also perform so much. I feel like there's no other company that performs and gets the opportunity to perform as much as we do. And I really, really, and that's like, you know, I always say the stage is like my second home. So it's being able to be on the stage as much as we do is just such a wonderful, wonderful thing to have in, you know, in this company. And it's smaller, so everybody gets a chance to dance.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And was that the case like right from the beginning when you joined the company? Were you just doing these ballets like Allegro and Forsyth stuff like right away, or did you have to kind of ramp up?
I had to ramp up. It took a second before I got to do all these things. But in the beginning, I was still performing, even if it was one ballet a night. I still was dancing more than I thought I would be dancing. Definitely more than Charlotte and other companies. Like I was still on the stage doing something, even if it was the last ballet of the evening. I was still dancing quite a bit.
Yeah.
And now I'm in like triple bills is just kind of a norm.
Yeah.
Truly the dream, the triple bills, even though they're hard as heck. It's just like, especially if you love performing, it's just, you're out there all the time, right?
You are. I mean, it is the dream, but also it's like by the end of the night, you're like, I don't know how my legs are still attached sometimes.
So what were some of your first big opportunities that you feel like helped you like make your own mark in the company?
I would say it was Darrell Grand Moultrie's piece, Harlem on My Mind. He created a brand new piece on us my first year. And I got to do I did this duet actually at Band 2021. I think it was right before or right after the pandemic or whatever. And he created this this duet on me and Devon. And I literally come out snapping my fingers like I'm in Harlem and come out with this like very fast, like Tyler Peck, quick feet solo. And I feel like that is kind of where people were like, oh, okay, Amanda can move fast and she has this, you know, she can turn, she can do different things. Like, and so I feel like that kind of started my path. I feel like at DTH, just getting the opportunity to have a solo my first year was pretty amazing. Because like a lot of people can't say like, oh, my first year I got a solo fully created on me. So yeah, I was so grateful to that, like starting my first year in the company with that. And then you know it was just awesome because that was like the main thing I would perform. So I really got to like fine tune that, especially my first year. But yeah, I would say it was Harlem on My Mind by Darrell Grand Moultrie, creating that duet on Devon and I, and having that solo was something very special that started. I feel like started it all.
You mentioned Allegro Brilliant, which by Balanchine, which we absolutely love. Like, name a better ballet. Sometimes I think you can't, right? I mean, it's just so good. And whenever I see videos from DTH of you guys doing it, like if I'm scrolling, I'm stopping, I'm watching it a few times. Like I love it. And so I wonder too, working with Virginia Johnson and her connection to, you know, DTH's legacy, Balanchine legacy, how does she coach you guys in that ballet, and what does that process look like in the studio?
Yeah, so with Virginia, I feel like, especially for like the principal part, she's always like, especially for that moment in the beginning where it's the guy and the lady, and we have this moment where in tendu back and the arm is forward. It's like, where are you looking? It's always the gaze. And she's always like, she makes you think about things a little bit differently. Like, of course, it's about the footwork and make sure you're making fifth every time you do those pirouettes from fifth. But it's also like, what are you thinking, about when you're doing the piece? And, what is your, again, like I said, just what your gaze and your connection with your partner and how important that is, and where you're looking, and every time you make a step, like the step you articulate through the foot, and yeah, so I think it's important because I think also Virginia was such a beautiful actress too. So anytime she says anything about that, it's just like, yes, whatever you like, okay, what am I thinking about? Like, what is this? Like, what does this Tommy back mean? So, yeah, she makes you think differently about the steps.
Where you're looking is so important, right? I mean, it's like something that's not always discussed, I feel, for some reason. There's such a tendency to focus on the steps and the technique, especially in a ballet that's so technical. But the audience won't always appreciate a perfect this or that, right? A perfect fifth position, but they will appreciate that gaze and the artistry behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I will say that fifth position especially at the end, the pirouettes from fifth with the guy. Oh my gosh, and you're so tired at that moment, but she's like, just shift over your weight, just shift over to the left, just a little bit more, and that's all it is. It just, and then and I feel like she has a great eye. Like she knows when she's like, something went wrong. I don't know what it was, but something went wrong. And you're like, yes, I did not do the step right. Or like, like she knows something. She may not know what it is, but she'll be like, something happened. Something happened. And she'll be like, something happened there. And you're like, I do.
Yeah. Well, Virginia is retiring this year, and she's such an integral part of the DTH legacy, and she's helped revitalize the company. But I still see years and years ahead of the company just growing and continuing on this beautiful path. So I'd be curious to hear what you hope from in your career with the company in the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I really hope that we continue to expand. I would love for the company to go back to like how it was, where we were like, well, I wasn't there, but 30 to 40 dancers. I think it's important. It's great. Like I said, the performance opportunity is wonderful, but there is a little bit of wear and tear that can happen. Also, on like the downfall of having a smaller company, because if one person goes down, it's like, okay, you're doing twice or 3 times the work that you would normally do. So I would love to see it just continue to grow and get bigger and expand and and just like keep growing and getting. I think we should get all the works. Balanchine works. I would love to see us do Who Cares. That's such a fun ballet that I would love to do the whole thing, and just have enough people to do those big full length ballets. Also, I would love, and then to get back Creole Giselle would be a dream.
Yes, really, that just makes so much sense. It's such a part of the DTH legacy, and oh my god, those videos of Virginia in it, like the dance actress, right? I mean, the way she uses her eyes and face, and it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, I would love for us to have that within the next few years, if possible. I know it takes a lot, and it's gonna have we're gonna definitely have to have obviously way more people, but if it's possible, I just hope that we can definitely do that. It would be wonderful. It's like and that is a dream, like to do Giselle, like that. I feel like that's every ballerina's like goal. It's like, okay, I did Giselle. Now what? You know what I mean? So, and I think the Dance Theater of Harlem version is just so spectacular and so vibrant. I feel like doing it now in the 2020s, 2023, 2024, 2025, whatever, it would just be that much more spectacular.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was so lovely to chat with you. We really appreciate it. And we wish you all the best in the remainder of this season. Are you guys touring anywhere fun in the upcoming weeks, months?
Yeah, so we're going to this week we're going to Sarasota, Florida.
Oh, come on down. The weather's beautiful here right now.
Awesome.
That's good
to know. So we'll be there, and we're doing actually, I believe, 7 shows in Sarasota.
Wow.
Like 2 shows a day. It's going to be a crazy week, but yeah. So we have like 7 shows in Sarasota, and then we go. I'm always like I just show up a lot of the times. I'm like, okay, look at the calendar, and I'm like, okay, where are we going
tomorrow? And then
exactly. But we are going to Walnut Creek, California, and we're going to Bellingham, Washington.
That's so funny. You guys are going to. That's like where I grew up. That theater. You guys are going to the Lesher Center, and that's the theater that I performed like all my like school shows at when I was a kid. And I was like, oh, that's so cool that they're going to be there.
Yeah, that's amazing. What a small world.
I know. It is really funny. And as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, I do remember seeing that. So you'll enjoy it. Back in California. Not the same area. But
yeah. We performed there last year. So we're going back. They wanted us back, which is always great. And then, we're going to Bellingham, Washington. We're going to Canada, and we're going to Baltimore. So just kind of all over the place. And then we have our New York season, April 20th through the 23rd.
Wonderful.
Well, I will not miss it this year. I was just, before we started recording, I was lamenting the fact that I always seem to miss your guys' season. I think I'm usually staging something or out of town, but this year I think I'm here. And I won't make the mistake of missing you in something as beautiful as your Odalisque variation that we always rave about on the podcast. So I will see you on that stage.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Amanda.
Thank you.